Aren't they supposed to be enemies? A random villager was walking along a path with the day's groceries when he decided innocuously to look left. There he saw a giant purple snake, a giant red toad, and a giant white slug. The former two had people stood on top of them. On the ground, a busted lady was threatening a blue-haired teenager, while two younger children and a boy dressed all in white watched. A flaky-looking man was stood still as a statue, while a green ghost was trying to escape some blue mirrors and looking a lot like a fly repeatedly bumping against a glass window. The villager turned away, gulped, and began walking quite briskly back to the village. Orochimaru stared at Jiraiya. Jiraiya stared at Tsunade. Tsunade stared at Kabuto, and Kabuto stared at Orochimaru. No one moved. Naruto raised a hand. Are we gonna do something? Because Kabuto is literally dying. He's right. Kabuto admitted. Master, I shut up. Orochimaru held a finger out. Just shut up. I'm in a terrible mood right now. He pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed. Okay, Tsunade, I don't suppose there's any chance we're still on for the healing my arms thing? Not unless you agree to submit to Konoha's TNI department. She replied easily. That's a no then. Orochimaru sighed. Great. Yeah. Tsunade sighed as well. Also, I don't actually know how. You what? You got your soul torn out of your arms and sealed in the belly of the actual Reaper. Reaper with a capital R. Tsunade laughed. You think I can fix that? I'm a healer, not the Sage of Six Paths, yo. Jiraiya shouted. This is just like that one time with the 4 cats and the lady from Hidden Stone. Remember, when you oh my god this is like that. That was hilarious. You were all like guys. Shouted Kabuto. Still dying. Right, sorry. The 3 Sannin stopped reminiscing. What were the terms again? Orochimaru asked. Your minion releases my dead boyfriend and I save him. Tsunade replied. And then you all leave us alone. That's kinda stingy. Orochimaru chewed on it. I don't really gain anything out of it, do I? I mean the alternative, Jiraiya pointed out, is that we kill Kabuto and it's a 4 versus 2 against you and Captain Calcium over here. My name's Kimimaro. Said Kimimaro. Buddy, I literally do not care. Jiraiya replied. The only reason we're offering you the out is because you might still kill one of us, and also we'd probably have to drag Dan to Konoha to seal him away and it would be a super awkward journey. Tsunade finished. It's still stingy. Orochimaru pouted. Don't suppose you have, like, a gift card you could use to sweeten the deal? No, Tsunade bit her lip. Oh, actually. She fished around in her pocket before pulling out a slip. You can have this. 10,000th customer, 50% off on your next shop. She put it in Kabuto's pocket. Kabuto coughed up some blood. Now that's a bit better. Orochimaru smiled. Kabuto, do the thing. Yes, master. Slightly bewildered, Kabuto made a hand seal. Impure World Reincarnation, release. Stood nearby, Haku dropped the ice prison, allowing Dan's soul to fly back into his body just as that body began disintegrating. Tsunade put her hands on Kabuto's back for a few seconds, then unceremoniously dropped him on the floor. He'll be fine, she said, walking off towards her lover. Kimimaro darted in and grabbed Kabuto, pulling him away and landing atop Manda with Orochimaru. Well, this was a delightful reunion. The Snake Sannin addressed the group as a whole. I think we've all learned a few things, got closer as a team. You murdered a guy. Naruto pointed out. Oh, Dan's host is technically still alive in there, Tsunade might be able to save him. Orochimaru dismissed. Anyway, like I said, great fun. We should do it again sometime. Sure thing. Jiraiya smiled and waved. But next time I will kill you. No, you won't. Yes, I will. No, you won't. Yes, I will. Orochimaru paused. Then made a hand seal. No, you won't. And then he and his retinue vanished into smoke. Are they 50 or 5? Naruto remarked to Haku, earning him a snort. Off to one side, Dan had used the spirit transfer again to buy himself a few extra seconds, even as ash flaked off his borrowed body. This has been crazy, but a fun break from the Pure Lands. He admitted. Oh, so the afterlife's real? Tsunade checked. Good to know. What's it like? I don't know. Dan scrunched his face up. I don't think I can tell mortals about it. Weird. Always making excuses, she chuckled. Dan joined her, for a few seconds. Then he flew forwards and enveloped her in a hug. She responded in kind. So what now? He asked. Now, I suppose I go be Hokage. Tsunade replied, dejectedly. I lost the damn bet, so I've not got much choice. And I'll probably start practicing medicine again. Haku's told me some horrible things about what happened down in Konoha now I'm gone. They just let the ninja in while they're operating. Pussies, it'll be good for you. Dan agreed, brushing her hair absently. You need to stop living in the past, Sonny. I let you die. She choked. I spent my whole life learning medical ninjutsu, but when it came down to it, hey. He interrupted her. It's okay. You tried your best, did better than anyone else could have. And I got to die in the hands of the woman I love most in the world. You dumbass, tears welled up in her eyes. Dan chuckled. Come on. Go live your life, woman. Heck, you can have official ex-boyfriend permission to go bang whoever you want. I always thought Jiraiya was a cool enough guy. I would bang Shizune before I even kissed Jiraiya. Oh, I'm sure you would. If that one time I caught you staring in the baths is any indication, I will bring you back to life and kill you now. That's more like it. He laughed, floating away as she took a swipe at him. His form began to dissipate and he looked down at himself. Ah crap, time's up. Guess this is goodbye, gorgeous. Look after those 2 kids, will ya? Oh no, you are not using your last breath to saddle me with. There was a bright flash, and Dan vanished. There was silence in the field. Bastard. Tsunade was able to stabilize Dan's host due to the resurrection being relatively brief, and they were even able to find the second sacrifice who Orochimaru had set aside for Tsunade's brother. The poor civilian was stuck underground in a coffin with no idea what was going on. After some explanation and compensation to the village's council, costing the rest of Swanda's gambling profits, to her chagrin, they all met up with an understandably worried Shizune for a drink and a serious dressing down. So you poisoned Jiraiya? My lady of all the unwise, stupid, ridiculous plans I've heard you come up with. Yes, dear, whatever you say. Tsunade closed her eyes and sipped at her drink. This has got to be the most. Wait, dear? Official ex-boyfriend permission. Tsunade replied, leaning over and deliberately falling into Shizune's lap with a smile. Don't worry about it. Bastard's dead and he's still cock-blocking me. Jiraiya grumbled into his drink over Shizune's squawks of indignation and Tsunade's laughter. So, how exactly were you able to make the Rasengan? Haku asked Naruto, sat at the other table eating ramen. You'd had the idea of using your shadow clones to maintain the shape before, but you couldn't get it to work. What was it you said? The shadow clones all acted great at first, but as the spinning got more chaotic they got out of sync with each other, and me. Naruto explained. But then, we did the thing where I poured my chakra through you, and I thought, hey, maybe that would work, so I did it with the shadow clones. You pooled your chakra with them? Haku asked, fascinated. Naruto agreed, mouthful of noodles. She swallowed. Turns out when that happens we share memories and viewpoints in real time, so they were able to stay in sync while forming it. He smiled stupidly, like he hadn't just come up with a revolutionary new development to increase the effectiveness of a forbidden technique and then immediately utilized it perfectly to access an S-rank ability of incredible power in an unprecedentedly short timescale on his first try, like some sort of prodigal shinobi deity. But it's all thanks to you. Me? Haku blinked. Sure. If we hadn't done that awesome double technique, I'd never have thought of it. I am glad to have helped, Naruto. Haku smiled, mentally promoted the Uzumaki from shining beacon of hope to miraculous savant or force of nature, and helping himself to some ramen. Oh yeah, by the way, Naruto finished his bowl and jumped up on the table. Hey Tsunade. I beat your challenge. Ha. Yes, you did. The Sannin sighed. And I'm a woman of my word. She pointed to the crystal on his neck. You keep that safe, you hear? It's a very important family heirloom. Sure thing. And it may contain secret senju powers that show up at convenient moments. Quest item, got it. Jiraiya coughed. Tsunade rolled her eyes. And, yes, I'll become the damn Hokage. How much paperwork has the old man left me? All the paperwork. Fuck. Hey Shizen, I'll help, but I'm not doing it all for you. The aide huffed and turned her nose up. What if I promised you a reward and now Shizen was blushing? Are you drunk again? No ma'am. I think. Not yet. Shit, I should work on that. Hey Jiraiya, the adults devolved into scuffling. The children sat down and continued eating calmly. The Tomo and the I go round and round, round and round, fuck I am bored. Itachi swung his legs in empty space, bored out of his fucking mind. Weeks. Weeks. Fuck the Gokiai, and fuck the Kokosora. Could it have killed Neji to exercise a little restraint with his super doom technique? Itachi had tried to get out, strained his Sharingan for hours on end to see through the Jinjutsu, but there was just nothing. No holes, no mistakes, nothing Itachi could use to pry a hole in it and escape. Like the Tsukiyomi, subtlety had been thrown out of the window. But while the Tsukiyomi provided a theoretically infinite amount of detail in order to stop you seeing through it, Neji's bullshit hacks OP Jinjutsu was so mind-bustingly blank that there was nothing to see through. Itachi had cycled through 6 different philosophical viewpoints in the last 2 weeks, and nothing had worked. He let out another groan he couldn't hear and rolled backwards, not that he could tell, having no sense of gravity or visual reference point, wondering how Sasuke and Hinata were doing. That was when his reality was rent with a loud crack. As the only sound he had heard in weeks, it set his ears off ringing, and he whirled around in space, trying to see there. A fissure ran through a small portion of the fabric of his existence. The jutsu was wearing off. It was a puny thing, but from it Itachi had a reference point. It gave him an up, and from that directions. It gave him the curvature of the limits of his world, and the radius, of course it was a sphere. It was enough. Itachi grinned, set his Sharingan on the crack, and got to work. This is a joke. I'm afraid not. Really? An odd coincidence then. Hinata stared Fugaku down. She had been doing that a lot recently. That an ancient Konoha ninja clan would just happen to appear, and just happen to grant you an extra vote when you need one, all while deciding to remain completely anonymous to the rest of the council. You ought to be careful, Lady Hyuuga. He replied, smiling slightly. Such accusations are quite serious. You're quite right. Hinata agreed. All right then, consider yourself accused of gross political corruption. He looked shocked for a moment, and she smiled. What? Obviously I have no evidence, so I can't have you thrown out of court, but we all know that it's what was the phrase? Crock of shit. Sasuke supplied from her right, smiling. Of course, you could pose a formal challenge for insult to your honor. Go ahead. Drag this farce on for longer. That won't be necessary. Fugaku replied easily, the tension that had pervaded many previous meetings gone from his face. I would not hold a child to such standards for saying things they do not understand. Hinata leaned across to Sasuke. Can I challenge him for insulting my honor? He winced. Acknowledging that insults based on age issue that magnitude of offense would mean you'd have to rescind your statement from 3 days ago regarding right, I remember. Hinata grimaced. And unless I am mistaken, the vote on the new Hokage is to be taken tomorrow. Fugaku mentioned, offhandedly, causing all eyes in the council to turn to him. Hinata refused to let that slide. Article B subsection 4 clearly states subsection 4, Fugaku interrupted, is rendered unnecessary by the second Hokage's 14th Amendment, which would only take place in the case of a single male heir, but the questioned legitimacy of the mother of the attention of the council flicked back and forth between the two politicians like they were watching a tennis match. Which would invalidate the previous 3 clauses entirely. Finished Fugaku a few minutes later, smoothly. Was that all right? Hinata checked with Sasuke. He looked down a list in front of him, muttering. And subsection G would counter the yeah, he's right. Crap. Excellent, then. Fugaku inclined his head. The vote will take place. Ladies, gentlemen, I look forward to hearing your decisions. He was met with quite a few glares. I can't believe him. Hinata hissed. All of the lying, the bribery. And he's going to get away with it. If we had a few weeks for inquiries, we could pull most of his arguments apart. Sasuke mumbled, from beside her. But we don't. The election's tomorrow. The citizens of Konoha largely ignored the two ranting as they walked down the street. It had become a common occurrence. The Shadow Clone reported yesterday that they'd set off home, and Tsunade had agreed. Hinata recited. But since then he destabilized and popped before he could make another. Understandable for a copy of a copy, to the power of 12, but now we can't get any further updates. We've wrangled it so that if Tsunade gets here in time she gets the hat, but if it takes her more than another day, we're fucked. Easy. Sasuke laid a hand on her shoulder. Swearing from Hinata usually meant the curse mark was getting to her. There's not much more we can do but wait. Hope Naruto gets his ass moving. I hate being helpless. Hinata declared. It's what he makes me feel. Then she stopped. Sasuke stopped beside her, worried she'd come to a decision to do something stupid, but she just turned to face in a very particular direction. Hinata? Did Itachi always twitch in his coma? She checked, Byakugan trained on the medical building. Sasuke looked across at her. Then the two jumped for the rooftops. Aftermath 3 and the hat goes to. The crack spread. Widened. Splintered. The more he looked, the more he focused on them, the larger they became, and now they crisscrossed the entirety of his prison. He'd started to regain feeling in his extremities, and could taste that gross dryness in his mouth. He was starting to get desperate. For the life of him, he could not manage to punch a hole in the egg-looking thing to get out. That was when he heard it. Attach Tachi. Ida, his eyes widened. Sasuke. With an almighty roar, he pushed against the technique imprisoning him in his own mind, and it shattered into a million pieces. He jerked upright, eyes blinking away sleep, and he almost broke the hands that he saw reach for him. But he restrained himself, and rather than an attack, found himself pulled into a crushing hug. Itachi! Shouted Sasuke, holding him in a death grip. You're back. Oh thank fuck, I was so worried. Easy, little brother. Itachi stretched, then extricated himself from his sibling, looking around. Medical room, no shit, and Hinata was sat there watching the reunion with a peculiar expression on her face. You've been out for 3 weeks, I know. Itachi stood, wobbled a bit. What did I miss? Well, for one thing, Sasuke pointed his finger to the left. Itachi followed it and groaned. Izumi gave him a guilty wave. You didn't tell me you had a girlfriend. Sasuke's grin could be felt. That's because it was a secret. Itachi ground out. We couldn't exactly keep it from him forever. Izumi pointed out. We could have tried. Business, please? The Hyuga in the room coughed. Yes, right. Itachi looked to her. The Kage debacle. How's it progressing? Naruto went to get Tsunade, succeeded, is on his way back. Hinata reported. Fugaku, through gratuitous cheating, is about to be elected Hokage in 12 minutes, actually. Sasuke refused to leave your side all last night and, well, those who abandon their teammates are worse than trash. Oh, for Itachi grimaced. Nothing we can do? Me and Hinata have tried everything. Sasuke sighed. I mean, maybe you could think of no, I trust you. Itachi waved him off, ignoring the mixed look on his brother's face. Great. Is Tsunade gonna be here in time? Doesn't look like it. Hinata admitted. I've sent some owls out and they can't spot anything. Assuming absolute perfect circumstances, she'd have to sprint to make it here in the next quarter of an hour. Wonderful. Itachi rolled his shoulders, ignoring the cracks. He looked down at his hospital gown. At least I have time to go get changed. Wait, what are you planning? Sasuke asked. Itachi made a very wry smile. The last resort, I suppose. Wanna come with? I'm breaking into the Uchiha compound for breakfast and clothes. Hell yeah. 11 minutes later, everyone is present? Fugaku confirmed. Hinata, glowering, was, as was the rest of the council. Excellent. Fugaku smiled. Now, before we begin, procedure demands I ask that any who have a legitimate. He gave Hinata a hard stare with that one quarrel, must say so now. Nobody said anything. Hinata crossed her arms, stubbornly, but didn't have anything else to add. Fugaku smiled wider, and opened his mouth. I quarrel. Came a quiet voice from the back of the room. Fugaku looked up, genuine surprise on his face. Itachi? The eldest Uchiha's son walked calmly into the council hall, trying to quell the fast beating of his heart. Facing death was easy. This was harder. Indeed. Fugaku Uchiha should not be the new Hokage, because he is not the most eligible candidate. Fugaku sighed. Son, debates have already been settled on the non-importance of the Lady Tsunade. I'm not talking about her. Itachi replied, squaring his shoulders. I'm talking about me. That sent the council into uproar. That is preposterous. Fugaku declared, rage in his eyes. How so? Itachi replied easily. I'm stronger, faster, younger, wiser, more intelligent and more famous. Frankly, I'm better than you in every single way. If we must have an Uchiha, let's go with a competent one, shall we? I, for one, fully support this alternative. Called out Hinata over the rising shouting of the council. You overstep your boundaries, son. Fugaku snarled. No, father. Itachi replied, calmly. You overstep yours. The Uchiha elder glared, and slammed the butt of a kunai on the table to get everyone's attention. Enough of this! He shouted. You forget the most important factor, son. You are not the head of the Uchiha clan. All right, bombshell too. Of course, I had forgotten. Itachi smiled easily to hide his internal terror. Fugaku Uchiha, I challenge you for leadership of the Uchiha clan. This time, there was just silence. I decline. Fugaku dismissed. You cannot. Itachi replied, simply. In times of peace, said the father, a head of a noble clan does not have to consent to a challenge unless it is demanded by a majority vote from within his own clan. Unless the accuser declares the challenge to be full stakes. Said the son, due to their believing the clan head is mad, or making decisions that will permanently or irreparably damage the clan's sanctity, honor, or safety. But such a claim would make the challenge a battle to the death. Fugaku spluttered. That it would. Remarked Itachi, appearing unconcerned. Fugaku was speechless. I told you my brother was a badass. Whispered Sasuke to Hinata, quieter than most could hear. You would kill your own father? For power? Fugaku almost whispered. I would do anything to protect the Hidden Leaf Village. Itachi replied, even as his heart ached. Short of making it not worth protecting. Then he stood there, silently. Step down. He begged, inside his head. Just step down. Don't make me do this. I don't want to feel what Neji feels. Fugaku's mouth worked. It was in that moment, trapped between the rock Nin and the two tails, as the saying went, that salvation arrived. It did not arrive as a dashing hero to save the day, nor as a flash of inspiration to provide a secret solution. Rather, it arrived with a massive crash as the door to the council meeting was blown off its hinges. Walking in after it was a panting, exhausted Senju Tsunade, with Uzumaki Naruto grabbed about the neck and held choking and kicking several feet off the floor. All right. She shouted at him, murder in her eyes. We're fucking here. Now stop calling me a slow old cow or I will take the 10 most spiky, misshapen weapons in the Senju vaults and I'll shove them up your ahem. Hinata coughed politely. Tsunade paused and looked around. Oh, right. She dropped Naruto on the floor. What's up, shitheads? Apparently you all work for me now? I retract my previous challenge. Itachi said, then body flickered out of there right as the shouting started. For hours later, and this is the office, though I'm sure you already knew that. Kakashi introduced, stepping demurely to the side and letting Tsunade stroll in. Kami, I fucking hate this room. She sighed, then looked at the table. Oh, and they left me the paperwork to get started on. Fantastic. Quite. Kakashi shuffled closer, body posture not much unlike a child about to ask for something from his parent. But before you get started, there are a few things of utmost importance you should get to first. Like who passed the Chunin exams, for example. I never saw the Chunin exams. Tsunade complained, dropping into the chair and rubbing her temples. How should I know who to promote? Unfair, truly. Kakashi nodded empathically. Of course you could always just go with whatever Sarutobi-sensei said. He made a list before his demise. He did? Tsunade cracked an eye open. Perfect. Do that. Excellent. Cheerily, Kakashi appeared in front of her with a piece of paper and a pen. Just sign here, and I'll get this taken to the right people as soon as possible. Tsunade complied, eyeing the 4 candidate numbers without much interest. Who are these, anyway? Anyone I would know? Oh, I doubt it. Kakashi lied. Thank you very much. He took the paper, bowed with all proper respect, and bolted. One corridor down, he came to a stop, and looked up to where Team 7's 3 faces peered down at him from a displaced ceiling tile. Well? Asked Naruto. Kakashi let them sweat for a moment, before smiling. Congratulations, Chunin. Woo! Kakashi chuckled as they began whooping, cheering and hugging each other, and continued to walk the paperwork towards its intended destination. He could have told them that Team 7 was officially disbanded, now that they were no longer genin, but he decided to let them have their celebration first. Damn you, Sarutobi. I have gone soft. Sir? Official correspondence from the Leaf, highest security channels. It's for you specifically. The Jonin gulped as a tendril of sand snatched the letter from his hand, before bowing and quickly disappearing. Gaara held his hand out for the sand to deposit it into, and began efficiently opening it. He wasn't sure why he was suddenly being treated with such deference, Suna still technically didn't have a Kazekage. But as the One-Tails Jinchuriki, and the previous Kage's son, everyone was in agreement he was deserving of at least some respect. He unfolded the letter, and began to read. Dear Sabaku no Gaara, Genin of Sunagakure, what's up? It's me, Naruto. I figured it's been a while since we talked, things have been pretty hectic up here. Just thought I should let you know 2 things. 1, we have a Hokage now. It's not me, just some old lady called Tsunade, but I beat her in a bet, so I really should have the job. Second thing, guess who's a Chunin now? That's right, me. And Sasuke. And Hinata. And also Shikamaru because he's pretty cool too, I guess. Smart and stuff. Great manga collection. Oh, by the way, he really likes the letters Temari sends, especially the ones that come with the pictures he won't show me, so even if he doesn't respond very often, that doesn't mean he doesn't care. I think? Anyway, what are things like in Suna? Hot, probably. Or cold if it's night. Sai says he's sorry for hurting Kankuro, even if Haku had to persuade him to. Not sure why Haku used the things when he said persuade, but whatever. Oh, and you gotta let me know how Yuzu is. Is he coping with the sand and stuff? Kyubi wants me to issue several different death threats to Shikaku, but I think that's just his way of expressing love. I have to go now, since I'm running out of page. See you soon, Naruto, Sasuke, Hinata, Haku, Satan Tenrai. The remainder of the writing devolved into scribbles as Naruto attempted to fit as many names as possible into the bottom corner of the page. Gaara turned over and confirmed that, yes, there was a full extra page he could have used by writing on the back. And then he started to laugh. It wasn't a massive laugh, not like the intense guffaws he'd sometimes had that made him feel like his body was breaking and he couldn't breathe. It wasn't that funny. But it was a genuine laugh. It was nice. Temari, he called. Come and read this. Kimimaro showed no hesitation walking up to and knocking on the door. He had spent some time deliberating whether or not to address the issue, but after deciding, there was no more room for doubts. They would just weigh him down. Come in, said his master's voice. Kimimaro entered and went to his knees, head low. Even so, he still caught a glimpse of his wounded master's form. His arms are becoming worse by the day. What is it, Kimimaro? Master, I want to apologize for my performance in previous weeks. Oh. His master's voice had taken on its usual tilt, where he had caught you doing something stupid and was waiting to see how far you'd go with it. Still, Kimimaro pressed on. I was defeated by the Uchiha when I should have been by your side, which resulted in your present condition. I was defeated by the Senju, which allowed her to prevent you from killing Jiraiya and blackmailing Kabuto. If there is anything you might subject me to increase my effectiveness, I would gladly undergo it. Nightmare stories were told about some of the experiments his master performed. The curse mark was one of very few techniques that had actually succeeded. His master laughed, a low chuckle that indicated at least vague amusement. Oh, Kimimaro, if only such loyalty as yours could be induced, I would have taken Konoha years ago. There was a pause while his master readjusted in bed. Kimimaro could tell he was in pain. Tell me, Kimimaro, what instructions did I give you against Uchiha Itachi? Delay him and prevent him from interfering while the sound force set up the barrier. Kimimaro recited. But Master Itachi is an incredibly powerful and talented ninja, years older than you, and possessing the joint second most ridiculous dojutsu in existence. His master explained. To expect you to defeat him in combat at the present time would be incredibly foolhardy. Do you think me a fool, Kimimaro? Of course not, Master. I would never. Kimimaro winced, chastised. And Tsunade, that woman was once my teammate. It would be remiss of me to disrespect her by implying she was anything less than worthy of the hat she currently wears. You are not Kage strength yet, Kimimaro. No, Master. So. In the former case, you were able to suppress a much stronger opponent for long seconds, and survived. There I was only wounded because I underestimated my old sensei's willpower. Which is, frankly, the only thing about him I should never underestimate. And in the latter case, you and Kabuto were able to stop a taijutsu specialist comparable to me, using taijutsu. In that case, we only failed because the Nine-Tails boy had an unexpected bloodline limit. You performed exactly as you were expected to, both times. The flaws were in the planning stage, which makes them mine, not yours. Thank you, Master. Kimimaro bowed lower, then stood, sensing dismissal. Before you go. His master's voice stopped him dead in his tracks. I will warn you now that someday I may order you, not to distract or delay, but to overcome your opponent. Completely and utterly, at all costs. And if you fail me, then Kimimaro could feel his master's smile. Then I will be forced to re-evaluate your usefulness. I won't let that happen, Master. Kimimaro vowed. I would rather die. Excellent, came the hissed response. Now, gather the sound 4. I think we've allowed our 2 projects in leaf to marinate for long enough. It's time to make them the offer. There was a knock on the door. Come in, Tsunade said, not looking up from her paperwork. The man that walked in had half his face covered by bandages, as well as one of his arms. Yes? She hurried him, paying him half a mind as she tried to sort out the mess that was her village's finances. My name is Shimura Danzo, the man began. And may I congratulate you on your promotion. HN. He began pacing. In the past I worked very closely with your predecessor, for whose loss you have my condolences. It was my hope that we, too, could have a mutually beneficial relationship. There are many things that I'm sorry. Who the fuck are you again? He blinked. Shimura Danzo great, don't care. But Tsunade looked up and gave him a death stare. Sensei told me about you. Apparently you're just a massive dickhead. Get the fuck out of my office. Danzo blinked. I very well. He left hurriedly, closing the door behind him. This is such an honor, gushed the old man, for about the 15th time. To be opening up the Hyuuga vaults. Do you know how long it has been? About 6 years, by now, Hinata remarked. Her birthday had been last week. I'm quite aware of the timescale, sir. Yes, you would. He coughed. But still, an auspicious occasion. Congratulations on your promotion. Let's just get this over with. Hinata sighed. Almost as soon as her new seniority had been officiated, she had begun knocking on doors and demanding to know who she had to talk to get her damn vaults open. The amount of utter nonsense she'd had to go through in the last 2 months just to access them had left her entirely impatient. I've heard Father talk about some of the techniques the old Hyuuga masters were capable of. They better be worth all this. Fortunately, the old curators, traditionalists and lore keepers were just as keen as she was to get them open. And here she was, walking alongside old McBoring through some cold corridors underneath her own compound. Is this it? She asked, gesturing to the door in front of them. It was, to all appearances, made entirely of stone. Oh no, this is just the primary door. The old man chuckled, fishing a key from his belt. Us organizers hold access through here, though this key will be given to you after today. No, the main obstacle is the door just past this one. He fit the key into the lock in the door and turned it, with a dramatic clunk. That door resembles nothing but a simple curtain, but is heavily enchanted with sealing jutsu. It would take a tailed beast to force its way in, and none could possibly break the encryption, except of course the blood of a live, willing main branch member. Not even the Hyuuga elders were aware of how the seals were originally made. The only reason Hinata didn't snap at the man for talking so much was because his words reassured her. Unbreakable, he said. Inaccessible to anyone but her. There was no way, anyone else had been in here. Thank fuck. The old man attempted to push the stone door open, winced, then put his shoulder to it. It still didn't budge. Hinata sighed, put one hand to the door, and shifted her hips. It opened. Thank you. He coughed, embarrassed. Now, through here he walked ahead of her, holding high a lantern. Behold, child. The sacred paper door of Hinata froze. No. It's impossible. She shoved him aside, walking forwards to get a good look. Her heart skipped a beat. The universe does not care what you believe to be impossible. Neji's words rung in her head. In front of her was a paper curtain. Not a curtain carefully covered in a myriad of unbreakable seals, designed to repel all thieves or attackers. Just a curtain. One with a hole ripped in the middle. Slowly, Hinata walked forwards, leaving her stuttering guide behind her, and stepped through the aperture. In her mind, more memories began appearing. A palm being placed on Sasuke's neck and immediately dismantling whatever complicated mechanisms were within Orochimaru's curse mark. A pale forehead, completely missing the caged bird seal. Before Hinata was exactly what she would expect from an ancient vault, a few musty bookshelves with musty scrolls on them, a few weapons on racks that probably held significance, a sparring ring. But pinned by 2 kunai to a wall in front of her was the piece of paper torn from the doorway. On it was written, "Congratulations, cousin. Good luck going forwards." Hinata collapsed to her knees. And she screamed. Hinata is fine. 5 years before graduation. Hinata was bored. She straightened out the dress she was wearing with a huff and looked around. Some great big hall in central Konoha, and it was filled with people. Old people. Therein lied the problem. Big important peace treaty between Leaf and the lightning place that Daddy Father had been shouting about for weeks. This was a party in celebration of it, but it wasn't a real party. Almost everyone there was an adult, and the depressing kind of adult who'd been fighting wars their whole life and didn't know how to laugh anymore. There was the guy with the cool mustache who ran the lightning people, the Hokage, who at least smiled at her when he saw her, her father, some other clan heads, exactly the kind of people who didn't care at all about her. Most had been introduced to her, said exactly what they had been expected to say, she had said exactly what she had been expected to say back, and that was that. She had spotted that Sasuke boy from the Uchiha who was her age and tried to go talk to him, but a sharp glare from her father had quickly put a stop to that. So here she was. Bored. She wondered if Naruto was having more fun than her. Dull, isn't it? Someone remarked, from her left. She turned to see a youngish-looking man smiling benignly down at her. "Shinobi-sama." She curtsied. It's fine." He chuckled. "The drudgery of politics is just as much a bore to us adults, I assure you. We simply aren't supposed to say so." He chuckled, and Hinata giggled along with him. He seemed nice enough. "Are you?" "I am the head representative for Lightning," he told her, and smiled when he saw her brief panic. "Don't worry. We're allies now, are we not? I see no reason why we can't be friends." Hinata thought about it, and nodded. "Friends. My name is Hyuuga Hinata." "Hinata," he repeated, shaking her hand. "If I may say, my dear, you have beautiful eyes." There was a ruffle of clothing, and suddenly a hand was laid protectively on her shoulder. "Shinobi-sama," came a very sharp voice from behind her. "I see you have taken an interest in my cousin." Hinata's heart soared even as the adult blinked and stepped backwards, body language suddenly very worried. "Ah. You would be Neji, then." "I was only talking, I'm sure." Hyuga Neji casually positioned himself between the man and Hinata. Only a few years into double digits and no higher than 5 feet tall, he still managed to look intimidating as he stared down the representative. It's good to see such willingness to foster relations. Still, it would be good to try and avoid doing anything inappropriate, don't you think? Quite. The man nodded quickly. "I'll take my leave then." He quickly scampered away. "Neji." Hinata huffed as her cousin turned to face her. "You scared him off." Neji nodded. "I didn't trust him. He had a suspicious beard." Hinata couldn't help but laugh, and he repositioned behind her with his hands on her shoulders, looking out over the hall. "What are we even here for?" Hinata asked him, glad she had someone she could talk to without any silly manners nonsense. "The war finished when I was 3. "It did," Neji replied. "But Lightning and us still don't get along. We've had a lot of little fights over the last few years. Didn't you say some of those were your fault?" She poked him. "Some of them," Neji replied. "In our defense, we did have a lot of important things to do at the time. Turns out there's a guy living on the moon." "Ugh. Fine. She smiled, but then looked out again and sighed. Tired? Neji checked. Very. Hinata attempted. Oh, not tired. Bored out of your skull? Yeah. She sulked. Neji chuckled. Understandable. Uncle demands I stay and be rightfully apologetic to all the people I've annoyed over the last few years, and you're the clan head's daughter, so you have to stay and look cute, aha. I know. He led her on a sweeping wander through the hall, at one point taking her behind a pillar. When they emerged on the other side, there was one Neji and two Hinatas. Cousin. She hissed, worriedly. Daddy will notice. But the lightning reps won't, her doppelganger told her, smiling a very un-Hinata-like smile, and he won't be able to say anything until they've all left. I'll take the blame, don't worry. Quick, retreat to the compound before someone notices. Ninja escape. Giggling, she did as she was told, hurrying towards one of the exits as Neji and presumably also Neji began mingling like nothing had happened. The nice lightning man from earlier held the door open for her, and she smiled, thinking nothing of it. It was only halfway home when strong arms grabbed her, a bag came over her head, and a knife went to her throat. Present-day Hinata trained. Her palms flew through the air, striking at non-existent targets as she flew through kata after kata, desperately trying to lose herself in the strenuous physical activity. She wasn't sure how long she had been training. Her Byakugan spotted Kakashi approaching, and she scowled, but didn't stop. She was training in the woods rather than her compound specifically so people wouldn't bother her. But there wasn't much she could do. He was stronger than her, after all, and power was all that mattered. Kakashi stopped and leaned against a tree nearby, apparently content not to interrupt her. Based on what we've seen, all your inheritance is still in place. He said. She didn't respond, so he continued. Strangely, most of the scrolls have been scribbled on with hints, tips, and assorted sass. Itachi came in to check and confirmed that it was, and I quote, definitely Neji, the sarcastic ass. Hinata tensed a little, but kept working. This adds to evidence we've previously collected suggesting that he has a jutsu capable of dismantling sealing techniques. Kakashi told her. This Hirajikoma he used against Sasuke. We think it's how he was able to remove his caged bird's seal without dying. I worked that much out for myself, thank you. Hinata replied, politely, before continuing to practice. There were a long few minutes where Kakashi stood there, watching her. May I ask you a personal question? He said, eventually. You may. She acquiesced. Are you planning to do something incredibly stupid? Hinata stopped. Like what? I don't know. Kakashi replied. But you have a look that I've only seen on 6 people before you. 3 of them I had to hunt down and assassinate. 2 are in prison. The 6th? Hinata asked, curious despite herself. The 6th. Kakashi continued, reluctantly. Was a girl named Rin. Which isn't a story I want to get into. Hinata nodded and turned away. If there is anything you want to know, or you think I can help with, you're free to ask. Kakashi told her, in a voice a little too controlled for his usual apathy. You're not my sensei anymore. She replied. No. He admitted. But I have a lot of experience, and I do still care. She thought about it. Did you know Neji? Professionally. Kakashi told her. I recall I did a small mission with him and Itachi once. Competent, efficient, intelligent. And he was stronger than I was? By this age? She wanted to hear it. Kakashi tilted his head. By your age, Neji had already killed the entire Hyuuga clan. There wasn't much else to say. Hinata breathed in and asked the real question. Is there anything in Konoha I can learn that he doesn't already know? Kakashi was silent. She turned to face him. His body language was tense enough that she could see it without the Byakugan, eyes narrowed, fists clenched. Pedantically, of course yes. He told her. But answering in the spirit of the question no. The 8 inner gates are perhaps the only combat technique you possess that he doesn't. He was never particularly robust, and those you can train on your own. But that doesn't mean you should leave. Hinata didn't respond to that, turning away. She saw him with the Byakugan becoming gradually more agitated with her non-response, before he eventually broke out into Hinata, what would you have me do? She rounded on him. Sit here in Konoha, trying my hardest, and watch him pull further and further away from me? Or just give my vengeance up as a pipe dream and relax? Play around and be happy with my teammates? She shook. I'd rather die, sensei. And if you continue like this you may die anyhow. Kakashi shouted. It was such a surprise to hear that tone from him. Hinata actually stepped back, eyes wide. Kakashi sighed, and took a deep breath. Neji is alone, Hinata. And that matters. Many people will scoff at the power of friendship or family, but it's one of the only strong motivators that doesn't tear you apart. If there's one thing you do have that Neji doesn't, then that's it. My family is dead, sensei. She reminded him. Your old family, perhaps. You dare, I am not blind, Hinata. Those boys care for you, as they care for each other. Don't insult my intelligence by telling me you don't feel the same. He turned around and began to leave the clearing. I'm going to be away on a mission for the next few days, so you're free to do what you want. But know that there are plenty of worse places for you than Konoha. If you betrayed us for hidden mist or lightning in the hopes of some harsher training and nasty killing techniques, you'd just find yourself in the exact same situation as Neji, but weaker. Or perhaps you could hunt down a tailed beast to possess, and find yourself assassinated. Simple fact is that if you follow in his footsteps, you're never going to beat him. With that, Kakashi vanished. Naruto? Hinata blocked a few punches. Can I ask you a hypothetical? A what? A question about something that isn't really happening, but might link to real-world stuff. Oh, okay. Shoot. Naruto continued punching. Getting Naruto alone was a piece of cake. All she had to do was offer a spar with no Tenketsu cheating, I swear, and he had jumped at the chance to meet her alone on the rooftop. Washing fluttered on long strings as the two danced around each other, blocking and striking and dodging. The rhythm was comforting, the two were well used to each other's fighting styles, and it left Hinata free to think how best to phrase her questioning. Let's say you were in a race. A marathon. And there's a person you're racing against. But the trick is that the moment you overtake them, you win. Listening. Naruto replied, sweeping at her feet. But the problem is. Hinata continued, stepping over his leg. He had a head start, and he's already a good distance ahead of you. How do you catch up? Well, you gotta run faster than him, right? Naruto answered, looking unsure if this was a trick. Obviously. She reassured, cringing at how he smiled at getting the right answer. But what if he's too fast? What if you're running as fast as you can? Your legs are burning, you can barely breathe, you're in pain, and you're still not catching up? That one clearly had him stumped. Naruto's default response was always try harder, get stronger, but with that option cut off by definition, you cheat? I don't think I would, but that's a pretty ninja thing to do, right? But if you cheat, you might get caught. Hinata replied. And what if the only way to cheat, all your friends know about it? What if cheating would make everybody upset with you? Then you don't cheat. Naruto shrugged, a difficult movement while mid-combat. It doesn't sound worth it to win some stupid race. But what if there's a reason for you to win the race? Hinata pressed, pushing her attack harder. What if it's a race you can't afford to lose? What if you'll be disappointed in yourself if you fail? There's no honor in winning because you cheated. Naruto scoffed, then stumbled as Hinata's onslaught increased. But it isn't about honor. She shouted, tripping and shoving him. It's about justice. It's about that gaping hole inside that I'll fall into if I admit to letting him go. Hinata grabbed him by the lapels. But that's the thing. She second-guessed herself, knowing she must have a hysterical look on her face. Now there's something else. Now I have you, and Sasuke, and Kakashi, and I care, and now I'm afraid that I'll fall into the hole if I let you go. So what the fuck am I supposed to do? She panted, out of breath, and began trying to get control of herself again. Somewhere along the line she had ended up practically on top of Naruto, keeping him off the floor by the scruff of his neck. At some point, his face had gotten serious. "Seems to me," he said, eventually, "you're not thinking crazy enough." Excuse me? You think you have to win, but you can't win without cheating, and if you cheat you disappoint your friends, but you can't disappoint your friends. Naruto summarized. You get both wins by breaking one of those middle two facts. I already told you, Hinata paused. Then, at a whisper, the universe doesn't care what we think is impossible. Naruto grinned. That's the spirit. So, you either win without cheating, which you don't think you can, or I find a way to cheat without betraying everyone. Hinata thought aloud. She paused, looked down, blushed, and dropped him. Thank you, Naruto. You've given me a lot to think about. She jumped off the roof and away, leaving a very confused Uzumaki alone with the fluttering clothes. Are you sure you're okay to fly? I'm sure. Kudos shot back. I've been sure for the last 2 weeks. Athena reached forwards and smoothed down his feathers, again. I know, son. But Naga is a big summon. Your father once got into a fight with him and Big Toothy wasn't that big. Or toothy. Kudos replied, huffing. Besides, I desummoned the moment he got hold of me. Big Two, is this more of what the humans are telling you? Athena gave him a suspicious look. You should always be respectful when referring to other sage creatures, I know, but he was eating me. Just be careful. Athena sighed. Yes, Granny. Athena. Yes, Granny Athena. He dodged her playful peck with a laugh, hopping over to the edge of the current planetoid. Letting himself fall over the edge, for the first time in a month he let his wings spread, waiting for the wind to catch them just right so he could. There was a poof of smoke, and he unceremoniously flopped onto wooden floor. That went better in my head. He stood up, shook himself, and turned around. Oh, Mistress Hinata. What's up? Hey, Kudos. Glad to see you're all right. His mistress looked sad. Or was it just tired? There were visible bags under her pale eyes. Yeah, I'm good. He flapped his wings experimentally. A quick trip in a snake's mouth is nothing for a summon with as much raw, untamed power as me. Well, that's good to hear. Hinata smiled and looked down. Kudos, your people are known for their wisdom, correct? Aha! He nodded. All the oldies always go, we attempt to curtail our natural irrationality, but I think they're just trying to be modest. I'm glad to hear it. Hinata played with her hands, which Kudos had been told was a human sign of nervousness. Kudos, could you put me in contact with one of the senior owls? Sure thing, why? I have a plan I'd like to sound out with them. It's just a little bit crazy. That night Konoha was a piece of cake to infiltrate. Tayuya snickered to herself as she bypassed the civilian, police and made her way through the hidden village. Where the hell were the Uchiha police that Leaf was so proud of? Well, apparently, after the Hokage debacle her master had caused, Tsunade had had all the high-end ninja working on missions to pay for repairs and prove to the world that Konoha was still in business. Which allowed the Sound Five to enter without any issues. Tayuya, Jirobo, and Kimimaro made their way silently towards the main goal, a large compound relatively central in the village. To Tayuya's surprise, Kimimaro had them all drop to the ground and walk into the compound at a perfectly normal pace. Best to make a good impression. He answered her unspoken question. She knows we're coming. As in most things, Kimimaro was proven right. Hinata was not fast asleep in her room. She was sat, perfectly relaxed, at a table in her living room. "Good evening." She greeted them, with a smile. "Tea?" Kidomaru, Sakon and Yukon split off towards the secondary objective. This building was much closer to the village's outskirts. "Sure, he won't be in his compound?" Sakon asked. "This doesn't seem like the place for a clan heir. Intel says he's in a pretty rough spot with his family, and the Hyuga's not in the best of places." Kidomaru explained. "Meaning the only place for him to go is, oh, here we go." They landed on the roof. After a moment, Uchiha Sasuke walked calmly out a window, up a wall, and onto the roof with them. "Sup?" he said, boredly. "I'd invite you in, but Naruto's still asleep." "Need something?" "Yes, please." Kimimaro replied, acting like this was the most normal thing in the world. Jirobo and Tayuya exchanged glances, shrugged, and moved to sit down next to him. "I assume from your curse marks you're all Orochimaru's henchmen." Hinata began, pouring for them. "Delightful little thing, by the way, it's been very useful. I'll have to thank him when I meet him." "I'm sure you will get that opportunity." Kimimaro replied, easily. "Our master has an offer for you." "Is that so?" Hinata picked up her own cup. "I'm curious to know what he thinks I want." "Let me guess." Tayuya spoke up, grinning. "Hyuga Neji's head." "On a platter." Hinata sighed. "Awfully unimaginative of you. If all Orochimaru can offer me is an assassination, then I think this meeting is over. Please ignore my subordinate." Kimimaro gave Tayuya a glare laden with killing intent, and she dropped her head immediately. "Our master is quite understanding. You don't just want Neji to die, you want to be the one to kill him." "So?" Hinata eyed him. "You want power." Kimimaro continued. "Orochimaru is willing to provide." "There we go." She put down her cup and leaned forward slightly. "Which leaves me curious as to what Orochimaru wants in return. Neji's Byakugan has stifled Orochimaru's attempts to kill him before. If you succeeded, it would be very helpful. Of course, he would expect your service for the duration of your training." Kimimaro replied, honestly. Hinata paused and sized up the trio. "Where are your friends?" she asked, changing the subject. "The two, well, technically three, what a strange bloodline limit the second has, that split off in the other direction." Kagaya couldn't help but gulp. No wonder Master wants those eyes so badly. They pursue a secondary objective. Kimimaro answered her. "We are making a similar offer to your teammate, the Uchiha." Hinata rolled her eyes. "Perfect. You may consider your two teammates dead and the alarm raised. We are running out of time." Tayuya snorted. "He couldn't. Uchiha Sasuke has a fighting chance against me." Hinata interrupted, standing. "But he does not have motive to betray the cesspit of a village. So, I provisionally agree to your master's offer, and if you will excuse me, I need to loot my own vault. Meet you outside in 90 seconds? Kidomaru held the innocuous tablet out with a smile. "This here is what we call the mind awakening pill." "Aha!" replied a skeptical Sasuke. "What does it do?" "Last time someone tried to sell me a mind awakening pill, it was LSD." "Not quite." Kidomaru chuckled. "This is the first of many things Orochimaru can offer you. Taking this pill will evolve your curse mark, allowing it to access its second stage, granting incredible additional power." He spread his hands. "We're both examples, but it would hardly be in the spirit of cooperation to activate them here, right?" "Right." Sasuke drawled. "It's certainly a compelling gift." As Kidomaru inclined his head, Sasuke continued, "But there's three things you didn't account for. First, he tugged his pajama shirt down at one side." Kidomaru blinked. "Where is your gon?" "Neji did it." Sasuke shrugged. "I'll thank him later." Second, I have no motivation whatsoever to betray the leaf. Why would you even think that? And third, Naruto. Yeah, he's awake. The sound pair, trio, weren't so blindsided as not to react, but they were quickly surrounded by a few dozen Naruto leaping up to each side of the roof. Shit. Sakan summarized. Shit. Sasuke confirmed. Naruto, you sent a clone to the Hokage's office, right? Shouting real loudly, yeah. One of the Naruto replied, grinning. Hey, do you two want to surrender, or are we doing this the hard way? Kidomaru grimaced. The first stage of his curse mark was already active, but he doubted it would be enough for the Uchiha-san. His brain frantically looked for a way to even the odds, and it found one. Fixing a smile on his face, he said, but if you take the time to bring us down, you might not have the time to save your friend, what now? Sasuke replied, obviously trying hard to sound unconcerned. Little Miss Hyuuga. Kidomaru drew out each syllable, watching Sasuke's eyes widen. My teammates are over at her house now, making the same offer. I wonder what she'll say. Oh, and those mind-awakening pills I mentioned? They literally kill you to upgrade the curse mark. Don't worry, she'll come back. Probably. 10% of the time, they survive. Sasuke glared. Naruto, take them. He jumped off the roof, heading straight for the Hyuuga residence. 2 versus 1, and the Uzumaki would never use the Kyuubi in his own village. Check and mate. Kidomaru grinned, looking across at Sakan and Yukon. Call the kid's bluff. With this many shadow clones, there's no way they have the chakra to do anything scary with a flash. Over 20 of the clones launched golden glowing chains from their arms. Shit. The sound ninja made evasive maneuvers, but the chains crisscrosses the entire rooftop, wrapping both up. Sealing chains? Like the new redhead master brought in? Quickly reappraising the threat, Kidomaru poured more chakra into his seal. Tapping into his spider physiology, he secreted a second skin that hardened into his armor of sticky gold. The sealing chains effect was dimmed, and he was able to snap the ones restraining him. Sorry, punk. He laughed. But my armor of sticky gold is physical, not made of chakra. Your chains can't suppress it. What is it with Sound Ninja and explaining their gimmicks to me? The Kyuubi shouted, exasperated. Across from him, Sakan and Yukon had found their own solution, splitting into two to slither out of the chain's grip. The twins were the key. Kidomaru was good for long range and single targets, but the twins were taijutsu monsters, and if anyone was going to successfully tear through a small army of shadow clones, it would be them. Until, of course, there was a flash of light, and both twins were hidden within a hexagon of flat ice. A cute girl hopped up on the top. Haku? The Kyuubi shouted. Where did you come from? I heard your screaming, clone. Haku replied. Also, I was kinda watching you while you slept. Ha. Yeah, hold on, let me deal with these two. She dropped back down, and there was screaming from within the ice. Kidomaru took a moment to try and understand where things had gone so wrong. Then he activated CM2. His form grew, his skin turned red, and 4 of his 6 arms grabbed a chain each and pulled, throwing several blonde midgets off balance and into each other. The remaining 2 arms drew his mammoth of about taut, as he did his patented weird regurgitation thing to materialize up an arrow from his gullet. There was a chorus of EUS. He took aim not at one of the clones, but at the ice mirror. His bow's 500-pound draw weight, plus curse mark bullshit, meant his arrow would smash right through the mirror and free his compatriots, ideally to then make as fast a getaway as possible. Which was when, in the ice's reflective surface, he saw a pair of shadow clones ram a glowing blue sphere into his abdomen. Listen, kid. Kakashi, I've taught you how to plan and strategize, which is all well and good, but always remember, if in doubt, make a bunch of shadow clones, wrap M up in chakra chains, and hit M with a Rasengan. Jiraiya of the Sannin, to Uzumaki Naruto Hinata held the pill up to the moonlight. An innocuous little thing. Her Byakugan didn't do chemistry, she knew only that it didn't contain any unusual chakra signatures. A coma? Well, if you were lying to me, you could certainly have chosen something more inviting. It's the only way to awaken the final level of the curse mark. Kimimaro explained. If you'd prefer, we could make our escape first, then no. Hinata shook her head. We do it now. If she was doing this, there couldn't be any half measures. She could see Sasuke now, sprinting up from behind her. Had Neji stood like this, once? Was this the first step following in his footsteps? Or was it the first step to undoing what he had wrought, righting his wrong the only way she knew how? In the end, such deliberations didn't matter. She was out of time. And she had made her choice. Her mouth opened. Faster. Sasuke sprinted, leaping from rooftop to rooftop faster than he had even in that one training exercise with Guy, Lee and the 50-pound weights. Hyuga Hinata was many things. Intelligent, driven, talented, objectively beautiful. But on top of all that, she was completely batshit crazy. Exactly crazy enough to try this. He had opened up his Sharingan ahead of time, and as he jumped clean over the gate to the Hyuga compound, he knew he was already too late. There they stood, in the front garden. 3 unknown ninja he immediately memorized the faces of, wearing familiar sound headbands. And a girl with short, navy blue hair and a thick, fur-lined white jacket. Her eyes, white with no visible irises, flicked up to look at him. She smiled, briefly. Then she put the pill she was holding up to her mouth, and swallowed. And Sasuke watched Hinata die. Hinata! He screamed, absolutely fucking sick of his teammates doing this, desperately running towards her even as her legs buckled and she collapsed towards the floor. The big ninja got in the way and Sasuke slid between his legs, then booted the girl in the face as she made to grab him. Why the hell were his eyes hurting? The Sharingan didn't have any more evolutions. The white-haired one roadblocked him, and no combination of frenzied taijutsu could break his defense and let Sasuke through, and then the fat one had grabbed his leg and slammed him to the ground. He twisted free of the grip, caught a punch from the girl, swept, missed, swept again and caught her, then jumped to handspring over Fatty's head. Get to Hinata. The white-haired one pulled his leg back and snapped it out. Then Sasuke knew no more. Good pacing is for pussies. Here's the whole Sasuke retrieval arc. Fuck you. Sasuke woke up with a startled gasp. Oh good, you're up, said what was probably a Naruto shadow clone from next to him. Was he in hospital? Oh, whatever. Hinata. He began. Taken. Naruto replied. The sound Nin ran off with her. Then what are we waiting here for? Sasuke asked, already getting out of bed. Now you're up, nothing. Hokage's office, 5 minutes. The clone popped. Sasuke made it in 5 years before graduation. Don't scream, provided you want to live. A man's voice uttered. Hinata squeaked and held her tongue. She felt her hands tied behind her back, and she was unceremoniously picked up and slung over the man's shoulder. He took off running like a ninja, and she had no idea who he was or where they were going, and there were tears coming out of her eyes. Oh Cammy, someone please help me. Her kidnapper slid to a stop, and she heard someone else drop in front of them. You got one? One voice said. Got one. She left the party alone. Dumb bitch even left a doppelganger in her place. They won't know she's missing for a while. Hinata sobbed. Which one did you get? Hayashi's eldest, like I told you. Sure, she's the best choice. It's only her and her sister who don't have the caged bird seal, and the younger isn't even 3 yet, so she's well protected. This is our best shot. HN, good enough. A few days travel and we'll be back in lightning, a few minutes surgery and we'll have her eyes out, and a few hours with TNI and she'll never try and escape. Heh. And after that it's only a few years before she's old enough to make us more. Hinata choked. Her body was shaking, she couldn't even bring herself to struggle. This shouldn't be happening, not in Konoha. Surely someone would come? Come on. The other's voice said. 2 minutes until the gap in the walls. Watch, I'll take her, and his voice cut off suddenly, with a gargle. Hinata heard something slump to the floor. Her carrier tensed, turning rapidly. Who was that? Show yourself. Put Hinata down, and you may live. Came a calm voice, seemingly from all directions at once. She recognized it immediately. Neji! She screamed. Neji, help, shut up. A knife came back to her throat. Her kidnapper was breathing heavily. He shouted out into the night, whoever the fuck you are, you come out now. Or I'll slit her throat. I can see your brain through your skull. Neji's voice replied. It was the voice of someone trying very hard to remain calm. I can throw a kunai before you can react and kill you in such a way that you don't even spasm. Put her down, or die. Like hell you will. There was a wild edge to her captor's voice. You end my life this soon after that treaty gets signed? The whole of lightning will be out for your head, and Konoha will have to hand it to us. There was a long silence. Hinata felt her hopes plummet. Then there was a quiet squelching noise. The knife fell away from her throat, and Hinata found herself plucked from the man's grip. There was another thud. You underestimate what I will sacrifice for my family. Neji intoned, calmly. Hinata slumped into his arms, as he lifted her back a few steps and sat her down. A few seconds later there was a snap as her hands were freed, and then the bag was lifted up from her head. If she'd had any strength in her limbs left, she'd have lost it upon seeing the two forms slumped on the floor in front of her, blood pooling around them. She retched. Hey, easy, look at me, look at me. Neji tilted her chin up, so her white eyes met his. Are you all right? Hinata shook her head. You killed him. Neji nodded, slowly. But Neji was a ninja. Neji killed people. That hadn't really sunk in until now. But the treaty, fuck the treaty. Neji snarled. First job is keeping you safe. He looked up and sighed. They were on a rooftop, Hinata realized, dimly, just as there was a blur and another man appeared on the roof next to them. She thought it was her father for a moment, but a muffled dad. From Neji expelled that idea quickly. Uncle Hisashi! She shouted. Quick, the lightning ninja, they died. Hisashi interrupted, gravely. And I'm afraid the rest is immaterial. I'm sorry. They were going to. Neji was shaking, with rage or fear. Hinata couldn't tell. The Yamanaka. What is the meaning of this? Hinata scrambled backwards, as the wreckage appeared on the roof, then the Hokage, then half a dozen other ninja. Neji crouched protectively in front of her as all the new arrivals took in the grisly scene. They tried to kidnap me. Hinata shouted to them. They said they would. Outrageous. The wreckage silenced her. You have the nerve to make such accusations while stood over the bodies of my ninja? How Miss Hinata is a child, and is not the responsible party here. The Hokage's voice was cool, and still managed to cut across the much larger man's tirade. His lined face turned to Neji. Jonin. Would you care to explain what happened? Neji winced and prepared to open his mouth, but his father beat him to it. Neji did not kill these men. Hisashi said, sorrowfully. I did. Present day, but 3 minutes later. Send Itachi. Sasuke said, bursting through the door. Can't. He's bedridden. Tsunade didn't even look up. He wasn't. After leaving the council room yesterday, he promptly collapsed. That's what a week in a coma will do to you. Anyone else I'd say would be out of action for another week, so Itachi will take another day or so at least. Time we don't have. Sasuke, panting for breath, took the time to actually look around. In the room with him was the Hokage, the 2 Umbu he could see, the Umbu he couldn't, Naruto, Shikamaru, and the guy with 6 arms from last night tied up in one corner. Oh hey, asshole. Sasuke glared. Pal, you do not scare me as much as she does right now. The sound ninja nodded towards Tsunade. Speak when spoken to, Kidamaru. The Hokage reprimanded. Now, since we're all here, we can get going. Finally. Naruto remarked, through gritted teeth. His eyes were red, but Sasuke wasn't in the mood to try and calm him down. Sasuke. Tsunade addressed him. Report. I left Naruto to track down Hinata, worrying that she was also under attack by the sound forces. Sasuke recited dutifully. My suspicions were proved correct. 3 other sound ninja were there with her: a redhead female, a fat ginger male, and a white-haired male. All young, late teens at most. The former 2 I could have handled, the latter was more difficult. He knocked me unconscious. Matches the description of the person Itachi fought during the Chunin exams. Kimimaro. Tsunade mused. Apparently capable of bone manipulation, some sort of bloodline limit. Naruto continued the report. Once me and Haku wrapped up with R2, I sent some clones off to back up Sasuke. They found him KO'd with no sign of Hinata or the others. She took a mind-awakening pill. Sasuke explained, grimacing. His eye bled a little. He ignored it, then looked at their captive. Has he explained what they do? Kidomaru started chuckling, but was silenced by a look from Tsunade. Yeah. He's been very forthcoming. You said you knew how to heal me, then sat there watching me bleed out. Kidomaru deadpanned. The remaining 3 sound nin all possess a second form, granting them several times their usual power. Tsunade ignored him completely. 10 times, in the case of Kimimaro. And in the case of Hinata, apparently. She looked at Naruto and Sasuke. Do I take from this that she has betrayed us? No. The 2 boys echoed, then they looked at each other. Hinata's a good person. Naruto insisted. And we were just talking yesterday about what she wanted. This isn't it. She's probably just tricking them for power, then she'll double-cross them and come back. She's crazy. Sasuke allowed. But betraying the village is what Neji did. She'd never let herself become like him. Tsunade gave them both searching stares, but neither backed down. She sighed. Very well. Present operating intel is that Hyuga Hinata has been captured by rogue forces. Thanks to Kidomaru here, we know where she's being taken. I'm authorizing a retrieval mission, she pointed, and you 3 are going. We are? 3 slightly different tones of the same question from Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru. Jirobo and Tayuya are relative in power to these 2, so I know you can deal with them. More in-depth dissections will be handed to you at the gate, as well as directions. Tsunade told them. While I'd ordinarily send a Jonin with their own squad, all the high-level ninja are out on missions, show of competence after my recent election. The remaining Umbu and Uchiha police are needed in defense of the village. As much as I hate to say it, you're the most likely out of the few Chunin we have left to pull a combat mission like this off. Plus the most likely to get Hinata to come back. Kami knows it worked on me as Chunin. You're now qualified to do missions in command of Genin squads. Is there anyone you want to take with you? Choji, Ino. Shikamaru replied, immediately. Granted. You too? Haku? Not technically a ninja, so I can't. Naruto pouted. Is Lee out of hospital yet? Sasuke offered. Tsunade nodded. Gimme. Done. She stared hard at each of them individually. I promoted you all because I believed you were prepared for responsibilities like this. Was I wrong? No, Hokage-sama. They chorused. Then get it done. You have 10 minutes to get out of the village. Go. They went. I thought she only promoted us because old man Hiruzen said so. Naruto asked Sasuke on his way out. Rule 6 of Powerful Ninja. Sasuke sighed. They love acting dumber than they really are. Hey, do you think maybe we should go to Konoha? Temari offered, looking up from stroking Yuzu. Why? Remarked Kankuro, fiddling with a puppet. I don't know. Maybe they'll need help with fights or something. That's dumb. Kankuro replied. How would we even get there on short notice? We're the old Kage's kids, we can't just leave without an escort. It's not like we have any reason to go, and if we went and someone was in trouble, they'd never send us to help. We just attacked their village. Yeah, fair enough. Don't know what I was thinking. They went back to what they were doing. Hours later, why is this thing so damn heavy? Jirobo growled. You're not so like yourself. Tayuya shot across, angrily. Yeah, but you don't have to carry me. It was, Tayuya admitted, a heavy-looking box. A black-purple cylindrical container about a meter in diameter, with a young girl slumped somewhere inside. Enough. Kimimaro silenced them. They're catching up. Tayuya and Jirobo both turned round. In the distance behind them, there were orange dots amongst the trees. Shit. Tayuya snarled. Do you think it was Kodomaru or the twins who told them our route? Unimportant. Kimimaro stopped them getting into another argument. Jirobo. You possess a technique that will let you trap them, yes? Yeah. Jirobo nodded. Good. Kimimaro nodded. Use it. We'll continue the mission. You slow them down, then regroup with us. Tayuya frowned. Hold on, does that mean I will carry the casket? Kimimaro snarled. 6 ninja blurred through the woods. Shadow clones have caught sight of them. Called Naruto to his allies. Hey, Sasuke, doesn't this remind you of something? Chasing an enemy through the woods, slowly bearing down on them, we chased Gar literally under 3 weeks ago. Sasuke shot back. You shouldn't be reminiscing. Course, you were a bit less useful back then. Naruto continued, oblivious. Legless, and all. I wasn't. Clones have popped. Naruto interrupted, eyes widening. 2, 3 crap, all of them. Bullets or something. In front of them, the trees abruptly ended, as they fell into a clearing that looked like it had been cleared deliberately about 10 seconds earlier, which it had. The Hinata retrieval team landed in a Power Ranger pose on the ground. On the other end of the clearing was the fat one. Jirobo, according to their notes. He grinned when he saw them and slapped his palms to the ground. Stop him! Shouted Sasuke, already blitzing forwards, but he was too late. A dome of earth rose up to encompass the group, catching Sasuke's flying kick with minimal effort. Almost immediately, all daylight was cut off from the group. Sasuke helpfully called upon some fire-release chakra and lit up a flame in his palm. Show off. Choji huffed. He's so talented. Ino swooned. Sasuke ignored both. Naruto? On it. The blonde summoned a shadow clone, and they cupped each other's hands. Blue energy coalesced. Rasengan, he declared when the spinning ball had formed, running forwards and slamming it into the mud wall. It drilled through with ease, then fell apart, leaving a small hole that quickly repaired itself. Impressive. Ino drawled. I swear this doesn't usually happen. Naruto blinked and shook his hand in confusion. That's what they all say. The kunoichi sighed. Hey, does anyone else feel that? Shikamaru offered, in what Sasuke knew had to be a really big hint. Sharingan active, stop fucking bleeding, damn it, he scanned their prison. Yeah, I feel it. Ino shuddered a little. It's tiring. I can see it. Sasuke added. He's still putting his power into it. It's draining our chakra. No more Rasengan, Naruto, it'll just drain you faster. Oh no, bemoaned Shikamaru, boredly, if only we had someone with really high destructive potential who didn't need to use chakra. Everyone turned their heads. Rock Lee's eyes were glinting. Sasuke, you have already shown us your fire. But allow me to demonstrate my fire. The fire's 5 seconds earlier. Jirobo grinned. This was infinitely better than carrying the coffin. All he had to do was sit and wait for the entire dome exploded, chunks of stone flying everywhere and revealing the glowing boy with a stupid haircut screaming of my youth. Jirobo stared. "Ike, let's go go go!" The Kyuubi yelled, and just like that 5 of the genin had blown right past Jirobo. He glowered at his one remaining opponent. "If I can't stop them, the least I can do is put this loser into the dirt and go after them." He was put off from his usual reckless assault, however, by his foe's appearance. The boy's skin had gone red, his eyes white, and his hair was straight up like a fucking Super Saiyan. This wasn't some chakra technique that wouldn't have broken the dome. This kid was dangerous. "Yosh!" The Konoha shinobi declared. "I am Lee. Today will be my dramatic return to full duty after my defeat during the Chunin exams, as I defeat you in defense of my friends. Come, face me." Third gate open. Jirobo gulped as the maelstrom around the boy increased. He channeled more power into his curse mark, feeling his body grow and his skin turn red. "All right then, Mr. Dramatic Return, I am Jirobo of the Hidden Sound. Come at me." The following battle could be accurately described as 2 kids with superhuman strength beating the shit out of each other. Tayuya looked behind herself, impulsively, before continuing to follow Kimimaro, who had sped up significantly now they had lost Jirobo. Then she blinked and looked again. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," she coughed. Kimimaro? What?" He deadpanned, from beneath the coffin. "They're after us again." Oh, for Kimimaro's head whipped round. There was one less ninja approaching. Perfect. Kimimaro adjusted the coffin. "Tayuya. You know what to do." But she gulped. "Wouldn't it be best for us to work together against them? It would have been better for you and Jirobo to team up." Kimimaro replied. "Which I would have advised, if I'd known he would fail so utterly alone. The same is not true of us. You would only get in my way." She shivered. "As it stands, the best-case scenario is for you to entangle as many as you can, deal with them, and come back while I kill the others." "Go." "Right." She grimaced. Picking a suitable tree, she drew her flute and began to play. "Genjutsu!" Sasuke called out, seeing the chakra weaving through the air. "It's the redhead. Use wind release," Naruto advised. "It really screws with sound genjutsu, I've done it before." "None of us have wind release," countered Choji. Sasuke sighed. "Well, we can't exactly rely on someone from Hidden Sand showing up out of nowhere. Me and Naruto can take this one, if you want to know." Shikamaru held his hand out. "We'll stop her. You two go ahead." Naruto looked at him. "You sure? We could just our mission is to retrieve Hinata." Shikamaru replied, with a wry smile. "Hinata needs you too. Go. Inoshikacho can handle this." There were some whoops from the Nara's teammates. "Ah look, a sane and fully functional team." "I'm tearing up," Sasuke remarked. Then Tayuya was right in front of them. "Buffeting wind," led Naruto, launching a gale through the woods that caused a massive racket and ruined whatever melody Tayuya was playing at the time. She had summoned 3 massive white golem things, 2 of which were disoriented by the attack, but one managed to take a swipe at the 2 teammates trying to get past it. The punch was blocked by a massive spherical, Choji-resembling projectile. "Kick their asses, Naruto," shouted the Akimichi. "I'll buy you dinner later." The Uzumaki shot back with a smile, continuing on his way. Team Asuma all landed next to each other, facing their threat. Tayuya flicked some hair out of her face and glared at them. "You 3 have caught me in a nasty mood." She began playing her flute again, and the golems came back to life, bearing down on them. Ino and Choji tensed, but Shikamaru just laughed easily. "You know, your teammate Kidamer spilled all sorts of beans on how the Mighty Sound 4 work. Seems to me that you're a serious threat as a group, but kinda hopeless alone. So you should probably surrender." Black marks began to drift across Tayuya's body. Interesting theory. She grinned over at them. Fancy testing it? Shikamaru sighed. Such a drag, well, if I have to. He turned backwards. Guys, blossoming lotus formation. Let's show her what teamwork really looks like. The trees parted before Kimimaro, and he made a strong jump to get as far as he could into the clearing before him. A wide circle of plain grass interrupting the otherwise perfect tree cover, rumored to be where a stray-tailed beast bomb had landed during the Nine Tails attack on Konoha. It was also a sign that he was close. A kilometer or so north of here was the Valley of the End, and a bit further north than that was Orochimaru's present location. Unfortunately, he was out of time. Deciding it was as good a place as any to finally kill his pursuers, Kimimaro sighed, stopped, and planted the heavy coffin in the grass. It was starting to take in smoke, which was bad. Kami knows what the girl would do if she woke up and found him bisecting her teammates. Speaking of whom, the Uchiha and the Kyuubi had both just jumped down into the grassy arena after him, and seeing his stillness, were approaching slowly. He drew a bone blade from within his sleeve, and awaited them. He'd expected a speech. "Give Hinata back," said Naruto. "No," replied Kimimaro. "Well, looks like diplomacy has failed." Naruto shrugged his shoulders. "A shame." Sasuke agreed. "Let's sick him." They started running. Kimimaro fell into stance, awaiting them. And then everyone stopped. Behind Kimimaro, the box lay still. All previous ethereal glowing had stopped. All that could be heard was a rhythmic tapping from begin. It fell into a regular tempo, rapping on the top of the box from the inside. It paused. There was a breath. Then, muffled, and the coffin exploded. Body once told me the world was gonna roll me. Hyuuga Hinata burst from the top of the box, leaping into the air and shouting at the top of her lungs. Then everyone started moving very fast. In my way, number 1. 5 years before graduation. There was a loud whip crack. It echoed throughout the Hyuuga Great Hall, and Hinata stood demurely to the side with her hands clasped before her, couldn't help but flinch away at the sound. She needn't have worried, however. She was not the source of attention at that moment. Hyuuga Neji's cheek was bright red from the chakra-enhanced slap, but he did not avert his gaze. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" Hyuga Hayashi spat in his nephew's face. Neji worked his jaw. "I saved my cousin." Wrong answer. Hayashi slapped him again, and again Hinata flinched. "Try again." "Fine then." Neji's fists tightened at his sides. "I killed my father." "You killed my brother," Hayashi bellowed. Hinata had never seen him this angry. His face was red, his shoulders were shaking, and his eye bored into Neji's. The branch child refused to look away. "I wasn't aware there was a difference. You believe now is the time for jokes?" "If we are discussing jokes," Neji snarled back, "then let us discuss a treaty that allowed lightning to kidnap a clan heir from central Konoha with no repercussions." Hayashi struck him again. "A treaty only necessary because of your reckless missions, traipsing carelessly across foreign territory. A condition that would never have seen the light of day had you not seen fit to send Hinata running across the city unguarded. You thought yourself so witty, freeing my daughter from the party knowing I could not intervene without looking a fool. And now look what has come of your arrogance. I saved Hinata. But you doomed Hisashi." Hayashi moved to slap Neji again, but the 12-year-old caught the man's palm on his own. "I did not ask my father to die for me," he hissed. "No," Hayashi snorted with derision. "You just made him love you. You made him care. So that when he died it was not defending the village, defending the clan, it was to protect you. A branch child with no future, no possible lineage, and no one left to love him." Neji glared. "Well, perhaps. If you cared so fucking much for your dear brother, then you should have plucked that last eye out and died in his stead." Hayashi stood there silently for a moment. Hinata didn't dare to breathe. Then, slowly, her father reached up to his left eye and pulled off the medical patch covering it. His empty socket stared out at the boy in front of him. I lost this eye in the swamps of hidden mist, in the Third Great War. Hayashi said, quietly. I was on the battlefield because my brother was captured and there were no other units willing to try and save him. The elders would have called me a fool, but I would happily have died to ensure his safety. His fist tightened around the eye patch. Unless I'm mistaken, you were responsible for that incident too, weren't you? He was captured supporting your mission. Neji clenched his eyes shut. Shall I tell you what is funny? Hayashi continued. You are so desperate to protect those you care about, yet every time you intervene you only make the situation worse. And when you finally had the chance to die for your family, finally do the one thing the branch clan is supposed to, you found that you didn't have the nerve to do it. Hinata didn't see Neji snap, but one moment he was stood there shaking and the next there was a whoosh of air and he collided with Hayashi. The two ninja met in a flurry of palms and elbows far too fast for Hinata to follow. After a moment, Neji was forced backwards by the sheer rage in his uncle's technique, and Hayashi had time to weave a select set of hand seals. Caged bird, clipped wings. He intoned. The seal on Neji's forehead began to glow a sickly green and he howled, putting his hands to his forehead and collapsing to his knees. Hayashi stood there, hands in position and gaze hard, as Neji writhed on the floor. Hinata's hands clenched in front of her. She wasn't supposed to move, was supposed to stand there like a good girl and wait until she was addressed. But then she looked up. Neji was looking at her. Stop it! She shouted, forcing her eyes closed. Just stop it, please Daddy. There was another moment, and then the hum of chakra let up, and Neji stopped screaming. Hinata opened one eye, almost too scared to look, but regretted it when she realized Hayashi was not done. The elder Hyuuga stalked towards his nephew, and hauled him up by the front of his uniform. 8 trigrams. He pronounced. 128 palms. No! Hinata screamed, but Hayashi didn't stop, pummeling Neji's defenseless body with palm strikes until he collapsed, helpless, to the floor. Hinata doubted she'd be able to activate her Byakugan, but she didn't need to. She knew off by heart what that technique did to a person. She made to move forwards, but her father held a hand out to stop her. Don't. He knelt down next to Neji. If you have any pride, you will lay down and die here. If you survive, then I never want to see your face again. With that, he turned and walked away. Leave him, Hinata. He declared, on the way out. He isn't worth your time. The door slammed. And Hinata was moving. Heedless of her father's commands, heedless of the fact that half the compound could probably see what she was doing, she ran over and fell to her knees next to her cousin, placing her hands firmly on his chest. WW. Neji couldn't get the question out, and Hinata knew he couldn't see, but she didn't really care. She was too busy concentrating. Pull the chakra in your stomach, center of chi, then spread it outwards, bring it to your hands, don't sharpen it weakly. Her hands began to glow green. Neji's breathing deepened. The simple act of transferring chakra was one of the most basic techniques any ninja learned, and one of the only things Hinata had learned. She'd only just started learning ninjutsu, and she was probably doing it all wrong, but she didn't care. She just had to keep going. Slowly, never once noticing the strange white marks spreading across his face, Hinata saved Neji's life. After a few weeks, she would come to conclude it was the worst mistake she'd ever made. Present-day IANT, the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kinda dumb with her. Sasuke and Naruto darted towards their teammate, and Kimimaro intercepted, catching Sasuke's arm and delivering a swift strike to his abdomen, then pivoting to throw out a kick in front of Naruto and knock him backwards, before launching a flurry of strikes back at Sasuke to push him away. Then Hinata landed. Is it bad to say I actually quite like that song? She smiled, pulling her hair out of her face. Hey, Earth to Hinata? Naruto spoke really slowly. I am not. Are you two? This is Satsu. I know who you are. She deadpanned. Oh, that's good. He smiled. Hey, fancy helping us beat up this creepy pale dude? Hinata paused. Kimimaro looked across at her. She met his eyes. He had no idea if this was going to work, but head north from here, past the Valley of the End. Kabuto's waiting to escort you. Hinata. Sasuke warned. The girl looked across the faces of both her teammates and sighed. Then she took off running. Shit! Sasuke and Naruto immediately rushed after her, but Kimimaro put himself between them again. No. He reiterated, palming his bone weapons. Across from him, the Uchiha tched. Naruto. He said, sideways. Go after her. I'll deal with this loser. The Uzumaki looked at his teammate in shock. Sasuke, you can't. My brother trounced this guy in like 10 seconds. Sasuke flashed a smile sideways. He can't be that hard. But go. The dark-haired boy reiterated. Hinata needs you. Frankly, you're probably the only one who can get through to her. And besides that, I have a bone to pick with him for kicking me in the head. Hee, bone. Naruto grimaced. You better not take too long kicking this guy's ass, you hear me? Then he took off running, giving Kimimaro a wide berth. Kimimaro let him go. He had a feeling he would be having enough trouble with the foe in front of him. Sasuke took in a deep breath and mentally congratulated himself on how completely suicidal he was being. Teammates, am I right? Can't take them anywhere. Tell me about it. Agreed his opponent, with an eye roll. I had to listen to Tayuya and Jirobo bickering the whole way here. Gotta love them, though. I suppose. Sasuke chuckled, letting his posture sag for a moment. Then he straightened and looked up. My name is Sasuke, of the Uchiha clan. Off in that direction are two of the most important people in my life, and I won't allow anyone to stand in my way. The white-haired boy, who couldn't be much older than 16, readied his blades. My name is Kimimaro, formerly of the Kagaya clan. My master demands that I facilitate the Lady Hinata's extraction to his location, and I won't allow anyone to pass me. Then it seems, Sasuke drawled, that we are at an impasse. He drew Rado. Step 1 attempted Genjutsu. But Kimimaro's eyes were firmly on his center mass, and without eye contact Sasuke knew he wasn't strong enough to land anything the sound ninja wouldn't detect. So, Step 2 hit it until it dies. Shadow Clone Jutsu. He called, trying not to stagger at feeling his chakra suddenly dip down to a quarter. How does Naruto do this so casually, before running with the three other hymns at Kimimaro, swords drawn? Willow dance. Declared Kimimaro, calmly making one step forwards and swinging. The fight devolved into chaos. Sasuke, Sharingan active, could keep track of the proceedings perfectly, but he was surprised to find Kimimaro was also having zero trouble. He had grown bones from both palms and knees, and was soundly countering every slash Sasuke made towards him. It became immediately apparent that this guy was good. Very good. Even outnumbered 4-1, he was able to easily manipulate their respective positions so that he was never fighting more than two Sasuke at a time, and while he was on the defensive, it seemed that he was more keen on analyzing Sasuke's technique than anything else. The Uchiha was quickly reminded that he'd only learned the basics of Kenjutsu a couple months ago, and there was a certain moment where Kimimaro realized the same thing. Sasuke knew he had realized it because the sound nin shifted to vicious attacking, immediately popping one of the clones and putting the other three on the defensive with ease. Sasuke continued to give ground, a dark look on his face as another clone popped, leaving him and his final duplicate alone against the swirling bones. You are outmatched. Kimimaro told him. I will attempt to spare your life. Sounds suspicious. Sasuke grit out, why the hell would you do that? Lady Hyuuga would prefer it if you were spared. Ah, how nice of her. But go fuck yourself. Very well. Kimimaro moved in. He grabbed the last clone's sword from it and buried it in its chest, dispelling it immediately, before lunging towards his real opponent. Sasuke jumped forwards over the leg sweep, twisting into a vertical spin that would have split Kimimaro along the spinal cord if he hadn't dodged gracefully to one side. Then as Sasuke was landing, not facing his opponent, Kimimaro turned silently and thrust his palm bone towards Sasuke's back. It was a strike that would have been completely impossible to block Clang unless you could predict what they were going to do. Sasuke turned with a smile, 3 Tomo eyes glinting. See, there was one thing Kimimaro had failed to account for: the Sharingan was broken as fuck. Sasuke spun in place and severed the bone that had just stabbed towards him, grabbing it in his offhand like it was a regular kunai, then swept his sword forwards. Kimimaro parried, then riposted, but Sasuke was gone, continuing to press his offensive. Suddenly, Kimimaro was on the back foot again, the barest hints of surprise showing in his face. Sasuke had been overjoyed that Kimimaro had wanted to observe his technique, because it had given him time to do the same. He'd done it using eye hacks that let him scan Kimimaro's entire fighting style, multiplied by 4 due to shadow clones, but it still counted. Sasuke, without even needing to think about it, had a comprehensive model of his opponent's technique that was refined and tested every time an action was taken. He knew what Kimimaro was going to do before he did it. As long as it was physically possible for Sasuke to succeed, Sasuke was going to succeed, and lo and behold, he was succeeding. He began to understand, just a little bit, why the second Hokage had tried to shove all the Uchiha into one corner of the village. He ducked under another bladed kick and threw his stolen bone dagger, forcing Kimimaro into an acrobatic maneuver to both pull his foot back and catch the projectile. That movement became even more acrobatic when he saw the explosive tag attached to the bone. That's what happens when you don't watch my eyes, asshole, and attempted to throw it back. It detonated in the air between them, and the smoke finally allowed Sasuke to complete the great fireball hand seals without Kimimaro seeing them. He was an experienced ninja, of course, so quickly jumped away to escape the blind spot from the explosion, but he jumped left. Just like Sasuke had predicted, based on his final movements. Kimimaro was wreathed in fire. Well, that was easier than I anticipated. Sasuke kept up the fire for another 5 seconds before stopping. What was remaining was a burnt patch of grass aesthetically resembling the Uchiha clan symbol, and in the center oh come on. How are you still alive? Sasuke deadpanned. I created a bone exoskeleton around my body. Kimimaro replied. Your brother attempted a similar technique, with similar success. His skin had taken on a reflective sheen and was a paler white than before, though now there were black markings indicative of a curse mark being active. Sasuke noticed with amusement that it was the same shapes as his own curse mark, then noticed much more soberly that he didn't have his anymore, and also what had happened last time Hinata had turned hers on. Kimimaro's hair and clothing had been mostly burned off, though his unmentionables were still barely covered. How does that even work? Sasuke asked. Bone is rigid. It's on top of your skin, right? What even are your joints? It's ninjutsu. It doesn't have to make sense. Kimimaro deadpanned right back. Also, that Jinjutsu attempt just now was pathetic. Touché. Sasuke shrugged. Then he looked again and snorted. Your hair's all burned off. You look like a marble covered in eyeliner. Kimimaro's eyes narrowed. Camellia dance. A bone grew out from his hand, and he viciously snapped it off, wielding it in one hand and oh shit different fighting style. Sasuke put his hands together, then was forced to jump sideways and interrupt himself as a hail of white bullets tore apart his previous location, bone shards fired from Kimimaro's left hand. Then they were suddenly in melee range, and Sasuke was desperately blocking the really fast strikes from his opponent. Now he was fighting someone with a 0 cooldown ranged attack and a stick. Oh, and legs, which he realized when a roundhouse caught him in the ribs and propelled him backwards through the air. Coughing up blood, Sasuke righted himself and poured some lightning-release chakra into Rado, swinging it midair to launch a wave of electricity towards Kimimaro, who dodged it. Typical. Sasuke landed and immediately rolled, bringing his sword up to cut at a few more incoming projectiles, in one case flattening the blade and punting a bullet up into the air, before Kimimaro was back on top of him. The curse mark's influence continued to be completely overpowered, and Sasuke found himself being battered backwards repeatedly, eventually unable to stop a knee to the stomach and falling to the ground. He attempted another Jinjutsu. Stop that. Kimimaro glared, and dispelled it, and brought down his blade for a killing blow. Sasuke started making hand seals. Kimimaro presumably thought it was a bluff, There was nothing in Sasuke's line of sight after all. Why would he be using the substitution technique? But there was a single bullet, falling down from the sky, that was about to enter Sasuke's vision. Right, Kimimura's blade came within a millimeter of his skin when he finished the technique. He vanished in a puff of smoke, the bone stabbed into the grass next to a small white bullet, and Sasuke twisted in midair, falling down to embed his blade in Kimimura's back. Larch dance, declared the sound ninja, boredly. Sasuke reacted a split second after the spines grew from every spot on Kimimura's body, barely managing to avoid impalement in multiple locations, instead forced to twist into a landing that still got him cut across the face, stomach, and leg. He froze. Not bad, Kimimura remarked, before spinning in place. Sasuke jumped away and backpedaled as Kimimura turned into a whirlwind of pain, coming to a stop only when Sasuke was a solid 50 feet away from him. The sound ninja ejected all the bones from his body, and turned to give Sasuke another blank look. I know this is kinda rich coming from me, Sasuke bit out. But your powers are bullshit. Surrender. Kimimura stared. You will only be rendered unconscious. Ah, come on. Sasuke fell into a sprinter's pose. One more try. Kimimura remained still. Phoenix Fire Jutsu, Sasuke declared, beginning his sprint with a hail of flak meant to disorient and pressure. Kimimura let most of the small fireballs fly harmlessly by him, catching those that were on target with arms and knees with no visible pain. Undeterred, Sasuke drew Rado, charging with it pointed straight towards Kimimura's heart. The sound nin looked straight into his eyes, unflinchingly. Then, when Sasuke was right on top of him, moving far too fast to stop, he moved. Again uttering larch dance. He let the spines grow out from his body to stab deep into flesh and bone. If there was one thing Itachi had taught Sasuke, it was that Genjutsu was an insidious thing. Seriously, it was an ass. The weirdest part was that with the exception of a few techniques that I'll tell you about when you're older, every single Genjutsu was completely dispellable. Easily, in fact, for any ninja worth their salt, even Sharingan Genjutsu. The simple trick was noticing it was there in the first place. Sensory types were better at catching the attacker's chakra latching onto them, but the rest of the ninja are trained to notice when the world they're perceiving changes from reality. Making someone see flashing colors may be a great distraction, but it's not subtle, and it's the sort of thing Kimimura would halt almost without thinking about it. Had, in fact. Thrice. No, the real reason Genjutsu was often vaunted as the most difficult and most deadly of the ninja arts were when it was used for little things. An idea planted in the back of the mind you might never have thought of otherwise. A branch looking a little longer and sturdier than it really was. A voice calling your name, to make you avert your eyes for a brief, crucial moment. Such things won wars. Of course Kimimura was well trained, and even Genjutsu like that he might have caught if he was focusing. But with all his attention on timing the execution of his opponent, and having just seen and shattered a much larger, sloppier illusion, he didn't notice the innocuous little trick Sasuke had slid underneath. A Genjutsu that made Sasuke seem a teensy bit faster than he really was. So instead of unleashing his spikes to skewer Sasuke right as he reached him, Kimimura became a human pincushion when the Uchiha was 2 steps away. Which allowed Sasuke to adjust his body position, dart in between the bones, and run him through with his sword. Kimimura's eyes widened in genuine surprise, and Sasuke wasted no time grabbing Rado with both hands and yanking it up and out, carving a gash up through Kimimura's shoulder and scrambling backwards. Kimimura lunged desperately after him, swinging wildly, but was quickly forced to one knee. Sasuke carefully controlled his gag reflex. There was blood everywhere. He had missed the heart, barely, but a brief review of all the organs upwards of chest center left him wondering how the hell Kimimura was still alive. He was considering whether a great fireball now would cauterize the wound or be the final nail in the coffin, when he heard a low chuckling from the sound nin. Very impressive, wheezed Kimimura. You are strong. I understand now why my master considered you. Remember, Sasuke. Itachi had once said. When a seemingly downed opponent starts complimenting you and/or laughing maniacally, it's time to start worrying. Sasuke gulped. Unfortunately, continued Kimimaro, you have spat in the face of that offer. He spat himself. Unsurprisingly, it was blood. And I cannot allow you to further insult him by denying him his other prize. So even if it tears me apart, he looked up. His eyes had taken on a familiar black and yellow theme. You are going to die here. Naruto wondered, briefly, if it was weird that he knew how Hinata smelled. It wasn't perfume, because she put that on when she did the clan stuff and it was horrible, but in a world where everyone smelled like some combination of body odor and ineffective deodorant, Hinata managed to maintain a distinct but subtle scent of lavender wherever she went, even during the strenuous physical activity of guys' lessons. It was probably a kunoichi thing. Naruto was fully aware that being so intimate with someone's smell was the sort of thing that warranted raised eyebrows and wolf whistles in everyday life, but wasn't really sure if that applied here. Given he was using his QB powers to track her scent and hunt her down through the forest. He pushed onwards, knowing for damn sure he was faster than her in a flat sprint, and was rewarded as the trees parted in front of him and he spotted her some distance away. She, of course, could see him just fine wherever, and had apparently decided it was best to stop and wait for him on top of the head of some big stone dude. So this was the Valley of the End he'd heard about. Two massive stone statues set up by ninja who were definitely compensating for something, flanking a massive waterfall. The river roared as it flowed straight over the cliff wedge and down into a lake below, while the wind whipped around the tops. It was dramatic as hell. He loved it. Hopping up onto the adjacent head, he pointed a finger across to his teammate. Hinata. I don't know what Boni told you, but it's time for you to come home. You can't just. Hinata blinked. Naruto had struck a dramatic pose and was gesturing wildly. Her ears caught a few snippets of words from him across the river. She tilted her head. What? She looks like she's listening. Me and Sasuke are super worried about you. He continued. And whatever it is you're trying to do, it can't be more important than I can't. Hinata sighed. Naruto, I can't hear you, so no matter what. You gotta. Naruto winced as Hinata put two hands in her mouth and whistled, the high-pitched sound interrupting his train of thought. Looking across, he saw her overact, putting a hand to her ear while waving the other one uselessly, then making a come-over gesture. Oh, he realized. He jumped off the dude's head and ran across the top of the waterfall over to her side. Okay, so, that was a little embarrassing. He admitted, walking up to the top with her. Do you want me to restart the speech, or no thanks? I think I understood the gist. Hinata replied. She didn't look any different, even from up close. So Naruto shifted on his feet. Whatcha doing? Going to live with the suspicious snake man from the forest. She explained. The one that put you through 3 days of agony and nearly killed you. Yes, that one. Could you, not? No. No, you won't go, or no, you won't not go, or no, you won't not I'm going, Naruto. She told him. Yeah, but the thing is, he paused, trying to vocalize his feelings. Why? She grimaced. I can't explain it. Yeah, that's hella suspicious. He squinted at her. Are you being mind-controlled? What? Say something the real Hinata would say. No. Damn, you're a dead ringer. They paused. Naruto snorted. Hinata sighed as he started full-on laughing. This isn't something you can fix just by making me laugh, Naruto. She said, after a while. But it used to be. She continued. Back when we first became a team, I wasn't in a good place. I was angry, and sad, and hurting. And you helped. She looked up at him and smiled. You genuinely helped, both you and Sasuke. You helped me stand. Now it's time for me to walk on my own. Naruto frowned. Is this more from that race hypothesis, Thinji? I suppose. Hinata looked over Naruto's shoulder. You should go help Sasuke. Kimimaro is dangerous, and it would be a serious blow to Orochimaru if he was defeated. Naruto looked at her in confusion. 1. Sasuke'll be fine. 2. You're plotting against the guy you're betraying us for. And 3. You're still betraying us for Snakeface? Yes. No. Naruto crossed his arms. Then thought about it, sidled around her so she was between him and the waterfall, and crossed his arms. That mark made you crazy before it was sealed, and now it's stronger. You're not in your right mind, and if you are, then you're just being stupid. We're both going back to help Sasuke, and then we can talk all we want about this later. Hinata winced, fingers clenching into fists. Then she relaxed them. Fine. And suddenly she moved, and Naruto found himself grabbed by the lapels and thrown behind her. There was a moment of vertigo as he passed over the stone dude's head and crashed down onto the top of the waterfall. I don't want to do this. She called over the edge to him. Go back to Sasuke. If you get in my way, I'll move you. He glared. It took him a few seconds to climb back up to the top of the head and grab her arm as she was walking away. With her eyes she obviously knew he was coming, and her face as she turned back to him was more resigned than everything. Bull. He snarled. If you don't want to do this, don't. She twisted her arm free of his, he grabbed it again. It's not that simple. She shot back. Sure, it isn't. He replied, derisively. This is about your cousin. It's always about your fucking cousin. You're so desperate to catch up to him that you'll go join a terrorist to make it happen, and you don't give a damn about the rest of us. Her eyes narrowed. She freed her arm and batted his away when he reached for her again, pressing one palm to his upper chest and walking him a few steps backwards. Don't you dare imply that I don't care. Oh really? What the hell am I supposed to think? I haven't seen much caring in the last few days. Then you are blind. No, you are crazy. He pulled her arm off his chest and shoved forwards with his shoulder, pushing her backwards. He took a deep breath. You're crazy. He repeated. Which is fine. I've gotten used to your regular brand of crazy over the past few months. So I'm going to drag your ass back to Konoha whether you like it or not, and apologize later. Hinata stared him down. I'm not crazy, she said. But I understand I'm failing entirely to explain myself, so I can't expect you to know any better. So I'm going anyway, even if I have to beat you down to stop you following me. I'll apologize later. They stood for a moment, facing each other down. Shikamaru and Kankuro both forfeit. Naruto pointed out. I beat Sasuke, and you beat Gaara. Hinata followed his train of thought. But we never did get a final round of the Chunin exams, did we?
Thank you for your views, likes, subscriptions, and overall support of my ongoing efforts to bring great content to all of you. Check out my Patreon for more mature fanfiction. The link is in the description and like everywhere on my channel.